The upload today for the 20th of the 5th, 2020 is with regards to women's rights in society, and basically with regard to the issues of marital and legal rights that all women are entitled to have respected. So basically, in my previous upload, I explained about the constitutional rights of Emer Griffin McElligott that have been disrespected as a consequence of hate crime. As regards marital laws, there have been issues that have involved intrusions and very serious violations and illegalities. So the institution of marriage is not a choice that is easily entered into. To choose to become married is a personal choice and a conscious choice for adults in a modern society. So when there is either spouse negating, neglecting, or disrespecting the institution of marriage, and that intentionally causes harm and causes circumstances that are unhealthy or unhelpful or unprogressive to the role of being a spouse. And when they are being facilitated in their harmfulness towards their partner, it leads me to wonder about the respect for the institution of marriage these days. So there have been, as we know, many attempts by spouses that are choosing consciously not to respect their vows, um, choosing to avoid the consequence of their actions, choosing to worsen the consequence of their actions, and involving individuals that aren't actually in the marriage that was consciously chosen to be caused for either individual. So, the topic of women's rights and marital rights and spouses um, disrespecting their vows is a concern also for me. As an educator, as a professional that has a concern for women's rights being disrespected and marital rights being disrespected in the midst of injustice and in the midst of wrongdoings. It's a huge concern that those obstructing legal and constitutional rights from being respected use the most horrendous means to avoid their wrongdoings, either in society or in any institution within society. So, the institution of marriage and the role of the family is pretty important, and the disrespect of any family or any spouse or any, you know, anything with regard to family life is very concerning for me as a teacher and for me also as a deserted wife. So these are just little thoughts that I'm concerned about with regards to women and the violation of women's rights and children's rights that I have to contend with also these days. And as a woman that has been living fruitfully, healthfully, uh, positively, and prosperously prior to being married and prior to being a victim of marital desertion and adultery. I'm very concerned about women's opinions with regards to facilitating these kind of incidents of women and children's rights being violated. So, as according to the constitution of the democracy that we're living in, um, it's highly offensive for the role of the family and the institution of the family to be disrespected in any way. So, what safeguarding measures are there for women that have experienced spiritual violence within their marriage? What are the safeguarding measures against women or for women that have experienced marital desertion, financial abuse, that have experienced illegalities and defamation within their marriage? The very concerning aspect also of this is the intrusion of individuals that have no role to play within a marriage and family unit, and that are destructive of a family with ill intentions. So this issue is not commendable for the culprits that are guilty in damaging children's rights or women's rights. It's quite embarrassing in 2020 that any modern society would condone, facilitate, or feel in any way positive about damaging children or women's rights. It's embarrassing for women's rights and children's rights to be in any way disrespected. It's very embarrassing for spouses to be facilitated in a modern day and age in their adulterous or abusive behaviours, be it spiritual, be it mental, be it emotional, or be it financial. So these are matters that I'm concerned with and contending with, and I'm wondering also about the perception of female politicians in Dáil Éireann with regards to these kind of circumstances that are also occurring. Female politicians, female professionals in 2020 that would be able to empathise and identify with the circumstances I'm relating. Their opinions are of importance with regards to this situation. It's absolutely inexcusable for spiritual violence to ever occur within a marriage. It's very unacceptable and intolerable for adulterous relationships to be occurring. As we know from the Human Rights Declaration, the damage done to a family unit and withholding the right to a family from different perspectives is also intolerable. So I'm just wondering how the circumstances that are being discussed in these uploads are being tolerated in 2020 and in a democracy. As regards the avoidance of spouses honouring and respecting their marital vows and responsibilities and obligations and duties, I'm wondering how this is perceived from a local, national and international perspective when there are such very serious violations and wrongdoings involved. So the integrity, the honesty and decency of those involved in any damage done to the institution of marriage or the role of the family, and those intruding on a family and destructing a family is quite a very serious offence also. So as regards women's rights and children's rights and the damage being done to the family unit, would the politicians, in particular the female politicians of Dáil Éireann, care to consider how there are families within society being damaged due to ill agendas and due to self-serving agendas, and that have proven to be very malicious and harmful, not only to the institution and role of the family, but also to the individual faith of the family. So that upload is with regards to marital rights, women's rights and children's rights that are also being damaged in this day and age, that the authorities and politicians would really need to address carefully with a new vision for Ireland.